What is a myth you are tired of hearing? That 9/10 dentists recommend every single toothpaste out there. Cutting your hair makes it grow faster. I get so annoyed every time someone says it. Trimming dead ends just allows the hair to continue growing without the ends breaking off over and over. You must wait 48 hours before you can report someone missing. Those first 48 hours are some of the most important in an investigation. Facebook is going to charge you unless you share this carefully worded legally binding paragraph. That the daddy longlegs is the most poisonous spider on earth, but it cannot bite you because its mouth is too small. If I had a nickel for every time I had to correct people on this one, I would put them all in a tube sock and beat the it out of whoever made it up. Cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. That black people have big D's. Only the guys do. Our blood is blue when it's inside our bodies. I want my steak well done. Don't want any blood in my meat. There has never been any blood in any piece of steak you have ever eaten. When they kill the cow, they slit the throat and hang it upside down, draining all of the blood out. What you are seeing as blood in a steak is a combination of a saline type solution that is lightly colored red and a protein called myoglobin, which helps to carry oxygen to muscle tissue. Edit. I'm not saying you have to go out and eat rare steak. Eat it how you like by all means. That's what food is for. After all I'm saying is that it isn't blood. Anything from the anti-vaxxer movement. According to science, it's impossible for bumblebees to fly. Well, no. According to the model for insect flight that was in use at the time, it was impossible for bumblebees to fly. The author of the paper logically concluded that bumblebees flew in some way that their model didn't account for, which they ducking do. But somehow the takeaway was heard: a dumb scientist thinks bumblebees don't fly. Anything to do with astrology and zodiac signs. That evolution should eventually create a perfect being, if it hasn't already. Nope. Evolution by natural selection only produces something that can survive in a certain environment. If the environment changes and it can't adapt, it dies. Every trait, even the ones that seem like they only benefit, has trade-offs. A species that's perfectly adapted for swimming can't also be perfectly adapted to run fast on land. A species that's perfectly adapted to a tropical rainforest can't also be perfectly adapted for Antarctica. Our big human brains, those use a lot of energy to grow and function. MSG is somehow dangerous. No, it isn't. Having 6 makes your V stretched out. We only use 2% of our brains. Duck off. Marilyn Manson got a rib removed to suck his own D. My dad is still trying to convince me that Led Zeppelin specifically and meticulously wrote the song Stairway to Heaven in such a way that if played backwards, you can hear satanic messages. Edit. I actually never knew that Zepp wasn't the original writer. That there are local singles in my area dying to meet me. There is absolutely no causative link between aspartame and cancer. In fact, there's more of a link between refined sugar and cancer. You only use 10% of your brain. Edit. Wow, didn't expect to wake up to so many responses. Have a great day using 100% of your brain, my fellow redditors. Macs can't get viruses. They do, it's just that if you do get one, you have a chance of getting a virus that will duck your computer up. That higher grade fuel is good for your car. If your car does not require high grade fuel, then you are simply wasting your money. Here's why. Engines have something called a compression ratio. It's the distance the piston travels compared to length of the space left at the top of the stroke. For example, if my piston traveled 9 inches and left 1 inch of space at the top of the stroke, I'd have a 9:1 compression ratio. When the fuel and air mixture gets squeezed in the engine, heat is created, and it will actually want to combust on its own without the aid of a spark plug. This is called predetonation. But here's where fuel grade comes in. Fuel contains something called octane. Octane prevents the air-fuel mixture from predetonating. If you have a typical car with a typical 9:1 compression ratio, all you need is the regular cheapest gas that's available. However, if you have a sports car, you probably have a higher compression ratio, maybe all the way up to 12 or 13. 1. In an engine like this, regular gas doesn't have enough octane to prevent predetonation, and if you were to use it, you'd encounter a problem called knocking, where the piston is slammed into the cylinder wall from the air-fuel mixture going off earlier than it's supposed to. So what do? You buy higher grade fuel that contains more octane. What happens when you put high grade fuel in a regular car? Absolutely nothing. The fuel burns like normal, except there's absolutely no need for that extra octane. So you're just throwing your money away. Edit. Source: I'm a mechanic. It's starting to die down a little, but the Viking and horn helmets thing. Napoleon was very short. No, he wasn't. By today's standards he would be, but at the time he wasn't. Just obey the law and you have nothing to worry about. Innocent people get arrested and or convicted all the time. Just look at the dozens of death row inmates who have been exonerated in the past few years. That organic means healthy. Organic sugar is still sugar. Your body does not care where it came from or how it was produced. It'll still go to your hips and rot your teeth. Columbus was the first person to discover the earth wasn't flat, and that was why he was the first to try to sail west to get to India. Actually, everyone pretty much knew the earth was round, even the lower class. Columbus, however, believed that the earth was much smaller than the Greeks thousands of years earlier had proven it was. The reason he was rejected so many times by the nobility was because the earth was in fact as big as common knowledge dictated, and he was an idiot. He would have died out at sea or faced mutiny from his crew if he hadn't gotten lucky and stumbled onto the Caribbeans. He wasn't even the first European to discover America. The Vikings beat him by like 500 years. But the natives shut them down when they tried to start conquering because they forgot to bring enough smallpox. Edit. Facts I got wrong. Ironically. That microwaves give you cancer. I lived with a guy who was completely adamant on this. He would bring it up every single time I used it. How hard is it to Google stuff? For those of you who don't know, microwaves use non-ionizing radiation. It just vibrates water particles to heat up your food. Not to mention the Faraday cage that makes sure that almost all of the radiation doesn't leave the microwave. To clarify, I'm talking about microwave ovens. E2. Fix non-ionizing. Starvation mode. No, your body does not violate the first law of thermodynamics. You just eat too much. My computer can't get viruses because I have antivirus on it. I hear this a few times a week. During the 1939 German invasion of Poland, Polish horsemen charged the German tanks with their lances. No, they ducking didn't. That never happened. The Polish people are not that ducking retarded. That furniture stores are going out of business and having blowout sales. That, if you ask are you a cop to a cop, they have to say yes. Left brain right brain psychology. Edit. While this blew up more than I was expecting. For those of you that are asking, I'm talking about the personality mythos that's been created. For example, more creative left brain. It's amazing how pervasive that has all become, and it's completely bullet. In Japan, your blood type will determine your personality. Full stop. People think you catch a cold because of the cold temperature. BMI isn't a good measure of obesity. Look, there are obviously exceptions. But if you're morbidly obese on a BMI, you've got problems. Every time I touch myself an angel dies. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? It's a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise. He could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life. He had such a knowledge of the dark side. He could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. He became so powerful. The only thing he was afraid of was losing his power, which, eventually of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew. Then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. That salt is bad for you. As far as I can tell, the bulk of the old research that supports this has been debunked. Edit. This comment has created a storm of opinions on all sides. Let me expand a bit on my meaning. Yes, it's true that excessive salt is unhealthy, especially for those with hypertension or indicators towards it. The key, though, is that the current US FDA guidelines for salt, less than 2000 milligrams per day, are thought by many qualified people to be too low. They stem from a decades-long war on salt that was based on 1970s research on rodents, and also on some suppositions about correlations between salt intake and disease in non-US cultures. Both of these pieces of evidence have been strongly questioned since then. The central point of this discussion is the definition of excessive. There are many who believe that the FDA can, and should, raise the recommended guidelines, that there's no evidence that between 2000 and 4000 milligrams of salt per day is unhealthy in typically healthy people. In fact, studies get cited that find a correlation between too little salt and health problems. A number commonly cited is that the average American adult consumes about 3,500 milligrams of salt per day, which many believe to be well within the safe range. That if you touch a baby bird, its mom will reject it. Birds have a mega itty sense of smell. Here's a handy dandy chart. Featherless. Scoop them back up and into the nest if you can see it. If you can't, just put it up high up so a predator can't get it. Has feathers but is still clearly a baby. Leave them be unless there's a predator. Source. People can sense Wi-Fi and other electrical energy and it is making them sick. Charlatans take advantage of people's general ignorance, particularly of physics and biology, to sell them products that will magically mitigate the dangerous energy. That Will Smith actually had a horrible father and that whole scene was improv. Scene thanks to UBBZK001. That you need to clear out your body of toxins. That's what you have a liver for, and you need these food supplements to boost your immune system. Honey, your immune system is fine. Boosting it would equate getting an autoimmune illness. So leave your damn immune system alone. Eating low-fat foods makes you lose weight and no pain no gain. No. Pain is really your body telling you in no uncertain way to stop. Really. Just stop. Edit. To all the comments on my no pain, no gain remark. I agree the saying has its place. My point was more along the lines of you can also have gain, even if you don't push to the point of pain. And it is not mutually exclusive. Sorry, I should have been more clear. The human eye can only see 30 FPS, 24 FPS, act. If people evolved from apes, why are there still apes? Say we have a common ancestor. There's a big difference. That the stormtroopers are somehow bad shots and miss all the time. They were told to miss. Obi-Wan clearly points out that the stormtroopers are deadly and precise, and the only time they miss is when they've been ordered to let Han and Luke escape so they can be tracked to the rebel base. Every other time we see the stormtroopers fight, they're hitting targets like crazy. The next president is gonna doom save the US. I wasn't aware that the position now comes with unchecked power that yields change at the speed of thought. That chewing gum takes years to digest. That birth control equals abortion. No, it's ducking not. Sexual education will lead to promiscuity. No, ducking doesn't. Marijuana isn't bad for you, doesn't have side effects, or doesn't have withdrawal symptoms. The United States is not a democracy, it's a republic. It's both. According to the ways the words are used by knowledgeable people, it's both. Republic is often used to refer to countries that have an elected president rather than a monarch. The United States is not a direct democracy, but it is a representative democracy. It's completely standard to use the word democracy to refer to a representative democracy. It just means that the public gets some input into who their elected officials are. It is a practical near impossibility for any large country to be a direct democracy. Full stop. 50% of marriages end in divorce. That having type 1 diabetes has anything to do with lifestyle. It sucks having a horrifying disease that is seen as a ducking punchline. Mom telling me you're so handsome. Using my cell phone at the pump will cause an explosion. And using my phone too much causes cancer. I'm tired of hearing the same recycled answers in these threads. That we didn't land on the moon. It's surprising how many people I've run into that talk about the moon landing like they're an agnostic talking about religion. That I need to buy a makeup, lotion, food, or other product because the ingredients are all natural. Snake venom is natural. Arsenic is natural. Natural doesn't automatically mean it is good for you. People don't seem to understand the word energy. We have folks out there who are scared of nuclear power. We have scam artists who use energy as a catch-all term for anything mystical or magical. We even have individuals who base their entire worldviews on a misunderstanding of the word, and who then go on to either vote or even lead governments. Progress in countless fields has been stunted, stalled, or outright suspended due to a number of different myths and misconceptions. And many of those obstacles can be traced back to a lack of knowledge about how the world works. Spiritual energy is not a thing. Mental energy, as anything other than a psychological concept, is not a thing. Faith healing is a placebo at best. Telepathy is just the result of intuition, and astral projection isn't real. There may very well be elements of our existence that we haven't yet been able to explain, but none of them involve magic, which is what most people seem to mean when they use the word energy. TLDR. Energy isn't something mystical or magical. Edit. This comment has been updated to remove some partially inaccurate statements, and I've deleted my part in the debates that resulted. There's more nuance to the topic than I have the necessary knowledge to discuss, and I'd hardly be better than the folks I was lampooning if I remained unwilling to learn. The lesson here is to always question everything, take nothing as a given, and always be open to new ideas. With that said, magic still isn't real. The SAR makes air travel safe. That 37 weeks pregnant is full term. No, it's not. It's actually medically defined as 39 weeks. 40 weeks is the due date. So many eager moms put all their hope into going into labor right at 37 weeks and are disappointed when it's almost a month away before the docs will even think of induction. You need to drink 8 glasses of gravy per day. It bothers the duck out of me when people really believe firearm suppressors silencers make a weapon as quiet as a whisper. That most people in the olden days didn't live past 45. Infant deaths were a lot more common back then, skewing the average. Typically if you lived into your 20s or a little earlier you lived to 60-70. That a friend of a friend did acid and is now in the psych ward because he thinks he's a glass of orange juice who will get tipped over. Grandaddy long-leg spiders are the most poisonous spider, but their mouths are too small to bite. Edit. Venomous, you get my point though. Reddit tends to hate hearing this, but the wage gap between genders doesn't exist in any significant form. Yes, there are factors that go into how much people get paid, and men and women choose different career paths for different reasons. But it's been illegal to pay people different amounts based on their demographic since 1963. Here's one of many studies on the topic. The 77% statistic that gets thrown around all the time refers to all of the money that women make compared to all of the money that men make. It doesn't take into account the fact that most of the high-paying, insanely scheduled jobs are held by men, and the low-paying, flexibly scheduled jobs that have high satisfaction rates are mostly held by women. Or that paternity leave is almost non-existent in the US and the UK. That there's a bearded fellow sitting up in the clouds with a keen interest in who wins football games. That nuclear energy isn't safe, not viable. There have only been 3 major commercial nuclear power accidents in the history of the industry. Also, you get more radiation from one plane flight than you would by standing next to a dry cask spent uranium fuel container for 24 hours. That GMOs negatively affect your health. There isn't a single shred of refutable evidence that proves any claims made are true. Myth: Clinton's emails Mike Tyson. We have only 5 senses and that 90% of our brain is mush, not being used for anything. If you sleep with a fan on, you will die because of lack of oxygen in the room. I still cannot believe even my parents believe this to be true. South Korean myth. Gender pay gap. The inaccurate number thrown around by politicians is based on all jobs, not difference in genders in specific jobs. That gun violence is on the rise in the US. It's been steadily declining for the last 25 years. Also that increasing restrictions on ARs and AKs would make a difference. Literally only 248 people were murdered with rifles, all types, in 2014. I am not fat, I am just big boned. This product contains no chemicals. This product removes toxins from your body. Superfood. That jet fuel can't melt steel beams.